that that's so important. But I want to welcome you to the 105th, 75th, and the monthly Huntington Patriot Games series of videos and discussions that began back, 15, 17, 18 years ago. Anyway, this is where we are, and welcome here. All right, our topic tonight, the U.S. plan for the Middle East and the threat of war with Iran. And our guest speaker will be Bahman Azad, Secretary of the U.S. Peace Council, who is an Iranian-American peace and justice activist living in the United States. He has a master's degree in economics and a PhD in sociology from American universities. He served in the Iranian Air Force as a second lieutenant between 1971 and 1973. He is a former acting director of Center for Middle Eastern Studies at Rutgers University. He is a retired professor of economics and sociology. Faraz has been active in the peace and justice movement since his arrival in the United States in 1973. First as a student activist against the previous regime in Iran, and then as a member of the National Board of the U.S. Peace Council. He joined the Veterans for Peace in the early 1990s at the invitation of his close friend and Veterans for Peace President David Klein. He is currently serving as the chair of Veterans for Peace's Iran Working Group, organization secretary of the U.S. Peace Council, co-chair of Iran Pledge of Resistance, and an NGO representative of the World Peace Council at the United Nations. He is also the co-founder of the Campaign in Solidarity with the Iranian People's Green Movement, an international campaign in support of the Iranian people's democratic rights. Quite a resume. I'll tell you a little more. I think we'll have our video next, and then I'll talk about how we go. We'll have the presentation by Mr. Azad, or Professor Azad, Dr. Azad, and then we will have a Q&A afterward, and I'll address that protocol afterward. Okay.
新たな米軍基地の建設、新たな訓練場の建設、新たな戦闘機や兵器の配備、ミサイルの配備には断固反対しています。これ以上の緊張激化をさせてはならないと思います。権力なら何やってもいいと許されるか。人の命は何だと思ってんだ。
なぜ沖縄の人々は米軍基地にここまで抵抗し反対をし続け、何を求めているんでしょうか。
私たち70年前にその日米の決戦場とされ、しかも玉砕戦を強いられました。
Okinawa, Japanese island dominating the approach to the enemy homeland. The last Japanese dugouts are dynamited.
時間稼ぎの、日本へのアメリカ軍の上陸を時間稼ぎするための、持久戦を強いられ、20万人の人々がこの小さな島で亡くなりました。私たちはその教訓を未だに忘れることができません。あの地獄のような戦争が忘れられません。 あの戦争で日本軍の指揮官が何と言ったか覚えてるか。国策の犠牲になって天皇陛下を守ると称して沖縄の人間が全て死ぬまで戦えと言ったのがあの沖縄戦の悲劇だ。戦争になったら真っ先に戦場になるのはここなんだよ。いいか、俺たちは君たちを敵とは思ってない。君たちを含めて全ての若者を守りたい。沖縄を二度と戦場にさせないという思いがあるから見てごらん。70、80になってもここに立ち尽くしてる。いいか、格闘するならあの海兵隊とやれ。この島に150万の人々がおりますが、核戦争の舞台とされたら生きながられることは誰もできないと思います。私たちは有史以来武器を持たない民です。琉球の時代から武器を持たないでアジアに広く交易に来ました。今、そのことが伝わって戦争の後、アメリカ政府やアメリカ軍はキーストン・オブ・ザ・パシフィックと称して沖縄を軍事の拠点として強化してまいりました。けれども私たちはアジアにおける平和の要とありたい。アメリカの軍事基地がこんな太平洋をまたいで沖縄に70数年も居座り続けて巨大な米軍基地から発生する事件事故が絶えない。昨年20歳の女性が惨殺されるという事件が起きました。軍人や軍属が発生せしめる殺人強姦のような大きな凶悪事件、この事件もそうですし、先月起きた、交通事故で働き手を亡くした、家族がいますが、さらにはこの飛行機からの落下、もう何より墜落したり炎上したり、そういうことが日常茶飯事に繰り広げられていて、市民の暮らしが、立ち行かないような状況まで今来ています。ひたすらその沈黙と忍従を強いられている、そういう状況が続いています。普天間基地をさらに作り変える最新の基地とする辺野古新基地建設が強行されています。県民はこぞって反対をしております。どのような世論調査をやっても7割8割の人が反対をしている。サンゴが群生をし、ジュゴンがウミガメが泳ぐ、そしていろいろの多種多様な海洋生物が生息をする自然の宝庫と言われている辺野古の海を埋めて 1500 メートルの滑走路が V 字に重なる200年太陽型の新基地ができるそうです。それを計画しているようです。県知事も名護市長もそして多くの県民が今一致してそのことを声を上げ続けています。県民が反対しているのに全国の機動隊を沖縄に送りつけて抗議する市民を排除し、それでもなお頑強に抵抗する人たちは簡単にあっという間に逮捕され検察庁の起訴を受けて獄につながれる、そういう状況が続いています。70人も80人も逮捕されてしまいました。私も逮捕され5ヶ月の勾留を受け2年6ヶ月の休刑を受けてこれから最後の裁判に臨むところですが、そのように、反対をする人たちには容赦のない、政府の鉄槌が下ろされています。でも、この島は私たちの島です。この島は政府のものではありません。この島はアメリカのものでもありません。人々の平和とそして充実した社会の実現のためにこそこの島々はあるべきです。どうぞアメリカの皆さんご理解をください。
first thing I want to do is apologize on both knees for not only my actions as a Marine not knowing, but for the Marines and the American military that do not know what they're doing.
My name is Miles Megacyph. I was stationed on Camp Schwab from 94 to 95, and I wrote this song, Nuchi Du Takara, for the people of Okinawa and the resistance movement.
All life is a treasure. Let's say all life is precious. Shut them down forever. Shut these bases down forever. Yeah, I was stationed at Camp Schwab in 95, and I remember our presence impeded a normal life. I mean, on the island, Marines relaxed by fucking wildin'. Come on, drinking and fighting was our way of socializing. So now I work towards vocalizing the way I feel properly. I mean, now that I am no longer government property, I hope and pray it's not impolite of me to say this. I'm truly sorry for my service. It meant your freedoms waited. Nuchi Du Takara, Nuchi Du Takara, no new Fatima, Honogo Bay feeds us. Nuchi Du Takara, Nuchi Du Takara, any means you measure, Okinawans are together. Nuchi Du Takara, Nuchi Du Takara.
They're not for legal work.
This is for Okinawa! This is for Okinawa!
Okinawa deserves peace.
This is Okinawan land. It does not belong to the Japanese. It does not belong to the American people. They have no right to destroy it.
Nuchi Du Takara, no new Fatima, Honogo Bay feeds us. Nuchi Du Takara, Nuchi Du Takara, any means you measure, Okinawans are together. Nuchi Du Takara, Nuchi Du Takara. All life is a treasure. Let's say all life is precious. Nuchi Du Takara, Nuchi Du Takara. Shut them down forever. Shut these bases down forever.
私も父親があるいは親戚がみんな基地の中で働いていた関係で、子どもの頃から小さい頃からたくさんの若い兵士たちを自宅に招いて正月やお盆やいろいろ楽しみをしたところです。その若い兵士たちがベトナム戦争に行くという話を聞き、帰ってこなかったという話を聞いて胸を痛めたものです。私たちは県民の基地の外で基地の被害を受けているものとして、あるいは基地の中にいてさまざまな圧力と矛盾と、そして力の行使の中で自らも審議をして苦しんできた人たちとが連携をできるっていうのは、本当に沖縄県民にとってはもうこれ以上にない感激的な出会いだという、今日そういう感じがしています。しかもその皆さんが大挙して遠いアメリカから毎年のようにやってきてくれるということを本当に嬉しく思います。アメリカはやっぱり帝国ですよ。世界中に張り巡らされた米軍基地、殺戮大量兵器が今5万と山積みされているはずです。今世界を支配しているんだと思います。今、朝鮮のミサイル機器を理由に戦争も辞さないような構えで朝鮮に圧力をかける、もう戦争前夜のような思いがいたします。戦争を開始するのは簡単かもしれませんが、収めることはできません。ぜひぜひ、この70年前地獄とされた沖縄からアメリカの皆さんにお願いをいたします。戦争を止めましょう。戦争に入ってはなりません。憎悪ではない愛と友情が満ち溢れる世界を作ろうじゃないですか。そのことを私たちも訴えています。ぜひアメリカの皆さんとまた、いつか、先を組み交わすような交流ができればと思っています。よろしくお願いいたします。We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe.
Greetings. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this very nice gathering. I'm really happy to see all of you. And thank you, Terry, for inviting me and facilitating this meeting for me. Before we start, I would like to give you some explanation and description of what is going on here in this video. This video was made for our conference against U.S. foreign military bases that we held in Baltimore in January, which was attended by over 200 people from around the country and outside of the U.S., and also was viewed live by over 17,000 people around the world at the same time. Hiroji was invited to come to that meeting, but because of his trials, he was not allowed to come. So they made this video for us to be presented at the conference on behalf of Hiroji Yamashiro. And that's how it was created. Just to mention that, follow up on that, at our Baltimore conference, the resolution was passed unanimously that we will hold an international conference against US and NATO military bases. And it's going to happen in Dublin, Ireland, in November 16th to 18th. And Hiroji is again invited to come. But again, he cannot come because November 18th is the gubernatorial election in Okinawa. And the governor who supports them and opposes military bases is up for election. And all forces from the mainland and the United States side are out to get him out of the office. So he apologized for not being able to attend while he was planning to, but he's going to send another video, which hopefully we will share with you. Okay. He's well respected around the world. He's one of the most genuine fighters for peace, and very highly respected around the world. A representative from Okinawa Peace Appeal that was supposed to be here got stuck in the train, and she texted that she's going to be late, but most probably she'll be here and say a few words afterwards. Okay, I've been given a difficult task of, oh, by the way, the conference announcement for Dublin is here in case you haven't seen it. You can take the flyer. We urge you to, first of all, get online and sponsor the statement. Actually, it's going to be not just the conference, but an international global campaign that we are going to be continuing against the bases. And it involves about close to 45 countries of the world, organizations from 45 countries around the world, and another 30 as a core group of the coalition that we have in the United States, of which I'm the coordinator too, Coalition Against U.S. Foreign Military Bases, which we have. This event is organized by 45 international organizations plus 15 core organizations of the Coalition Against U.S. Foreign Military Bases. Please go online, sign the unity statement that brings us together against the bases, help contribute to the cause, because this conference is going to cost us around 36,000 euros to set up and run, and we need a lot of money for that. If you can come, that would be great. Register for the conference. If you cannot come, please help us put it together. That would be a great help to all of us. Enough pitching, so I go to the main topic. Okay, it's a very difficult topic to deal with. We know that. Very complex in the Middle East. There's no easy side, an easy explanation. So please bear with me, because I'm going to go to a lot of items. It's part and parcel of, you don't want me to move around? Okay. Part and parcel of a general policy of the United States that has started, which was originally also the policy since World War II, but at the same time went through several shifts as a result of various global events. The main thing that triggered the new wave of wars was the collapse of Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union collapsed as the main alternative superpower in the world, a lot of conservatives in the United States, we know them as neocons, right, came up with a think tank called Project for the New American Century, which was created in early 90s. And they came up with a lot of documents, policy proposals, and the objective for the New American Century, which was 21st century, was to guarantee the sole dominance of the United States around the world now that the alternative, the rival superpower is gone. So US must become the sole superpower and the sole dominant power of the world. They came up with a document in, I think, 94 called Rebuilding America's Defenses. It's a 90-page document, mostly military planning, if you look at it. And if you go to the Project for the New American Century website, you will see all these documents. It said that we have to guarantee the total absolute domination of the United States over the globe. And to do that, they came up with certain objectives and goals and certain methods of achieving them. The first was that now that the rival is gone, we should avoid at any cost the emergence of another rival. So you have to nip it in the bud as soon as it arrives or tries to emerge. So according to some of them, we have to meet the emergency before it appears. That was the plan. And in doing so, in thinking of in those terms, they declared that the main rival that we should be wary about and control is China during the 21st century. So we should avoid or prohibit the emergence of China as another superpower on this global scene. Okay. One of the proposals for controlling, several proposals for containing China. One was dispatching about 60% of total US naval force to surround China, which has been done already. 60% of naval forces are surrounding China right now. US is building bases, military bases in South China Sea. And the story that you see here, that Chinese are building a fortified island there, it's a defensive measure to protect themselves. But that's one. So US is moving its forces towards China. Second, creation of advanced bases towards China. So establishing military bases, networks that surround China and Russia, in fact. That's what they have been doing. You see this in the expansion of NATO toward the borders of Russia, creation of NATO bases in all of the previously republics of Soviet Union, one by one. They are going inside even the territories of the former Soviet Union. So they are moving toward the border lines of these countries. That was the general policy. Another regional policy that they declared was that there are regional powers in all areas of the world that have enough power or resources to resist our dominance. All of them should be taken care of. So you do not need to have any country anywhere, regardless of their present policy, whether they're allies or not. You do not want to have any government powerful enough to resist have the quantitative power to resist. You have to break it up. Any country with enough resources should be broken up, partitioned, or attacked and invaded. Right? That was the policy. Okay, so they call them deterrents to our interests. Deterrents to American interests, which means deterrents to domination by foreign forces in their region. And many were listed there in that document. North Korea, Iran, Syria, Libya, Iraq. All of them were listed in that document in '94. Okay. Now, something happened with the 2000 elections. George Bush took over, George W. And members of his cabinet were actually the people of this think tank, the neocons that came up with this policy. Bolton is back now. He was part of that, one of the authors of the document. Right? So that proposal became official policy of the United States government. Okay. So the implementation started. What they needed, and this is exactly explicitly said in that document, none of this can happen in terms of finding, triggering, attacking, controlling, and all those things, wars. This is one of the final phrases of this document. And most importantly, none of these can be achieved absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like the new Pearl Harbor, like a new Pearl Harbor. This is exact wording from the document. When did that new Pearl Harbor come? 9/11, right? And that triggered the whole process. Okay, invasions. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, now Syria, now Iran, waiting, right? And they have gone through all of these countries one by one. Well, the last one left is Iran. The rest of them have been taken care of in these places, during this time. And there are other concerns also. It is oil also. We talk about that because a lot of us think about it's about oil, which is in a sense true, but not in the sense that we understand it. Okay, but I get to that. Now, 9/11 triggered the process. Correct. We went through Iraq. If you look at the map of the Middle East, and I want to before the invasions and attacks, right? Around 9/11. This is how the Middle East looked. Okay? If you look at the borders, please pay attention to these because these have changed. Okay. This is Iraq. This is Syria. Please remember these current borders because they become significant when you look at the rest of the map. Okay? And then there is Turkey, and one thing you have to remember is that in this area, shared between Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, is the Kurdish area. Okay. And the British actually split the Kurds into 4 countries in which they are minorities in all of them, right? Destroyed the national identity of the Kurds that way. They tried to do it. The divide and rule was the general policy. So they are banking on that for splitting up the countries in a way, right? So this is the map of the Middle East before the invasion. I want to now move it down to, you don't have to move. the second phase, this map is actually was developed by a colonel in Pentagon War Academy during the George W. Bush administration. And he, in a sense, proposed this arrangement for the Middle East, which the Bush administration called the New Middle East. Okay, Condoleezza Rice called it the Greater Middle East and changed the name to the New Middle East. That was the plan. Okay. Look at the new map. We were talking about partitioning the big states, right? Powerful states. Correct? The first phase, Iraq. Look at this. Okay, look at Iraq. I wish I had the back and forth ability to do that. You can look at the current map. If you don't have it, I can give it to you here. Do you need the current map? No, all of you have it? Because that way you can compare. One side is the current and the other side is this new one. Of course, it was never officially adopted by the American government, US government, as the actual plan for doing it this way. But if you look at all the steps taken so far, it's moving in that direction, without exception. And I'll explain what is happening. Okay, let's look at Iraq first. Iraq is going this area and now is split into three parts. Sunni Iraq, Arab Shia state, Kurdish area, right? Split up. Iraq is three parts now. The interesting part, the Iraqi oil, I'll explain later, but the Iraqi oil is located in the northern Kurdish areas as in the south in the Shia area. Right? The plan for splitting this country left the Sunni part of Iraq without any resources. You wonder why they resisted? Right? The oil was given to the Kurds in the north and Shiites in the south. Right? They would be in the middle desert, nothing else. Okay? So they started resisting because they knew what the plan was. Okay? The Kurds were manipulated to help. Shiites cooperated with the invasion. That's why they're rewarded with that area of Iraq. Right? So Iraq is split. If you look at the Iranian part, definitely part of it has gone to Kurdish areas, right? It has not now, but if you look at the map, if the Kurds really want to have an area of their own, right? It's going to be this area, part of it is in Iran, part of it is in Iraq, part of it is in Syria, part of it in Turkey. And no wonder Turkey is opposing US support for the Kurdish fighters in the north of Syria, right? Turkey. So what they are trying to do, the Trump administration, is trying to convince the Saudis to come in and Arabize the northern part of Syria, the Kurdish area, under the control of Saudi Arabia, so that it's an Arab independent state for now to kind of quiet down Turkey, right? But still go on with the splitting of Syria. All right? But with Iran, the interesting part, and with Saudi Arabia, the interesting part. If you look at this narrow strip here, in the southern Iran by the Persian Gulf, this is where all of Iranian oil fields are. No other oil fields. In the north, there are resources, but there was an agreement with the Soviet Union that Iran would not kind of lease it out to any Western powers. So it is unexplored. But ultimately, the way they're splitting it, it's going to end up in the Kurdish area, right? Look at Saudi Arabia. This is where all the oil fields of Saudi Arabia are, nowhere else. And they are not sure if Saudis are going to survive. They are in deep crisis, absolutely dictatorial, very kind of reactionary government, facing huge economic crisis, and they are not sure if for the long run Saudi Arabia is going to still exist. So what they're planning to do is separate the oil fields, right? And also separate the holy areas of Saudi Arabia where Mecca and Medina are into a separate state, so that oil can be freed of this religious war and transferred to a control of a state that is allied to the United States. Okay? Look at the Syria. Northern part of it, we get to the map of Syria separately. Northern part of it is now split off, right? The southern part is interesting. This side is Golan Heights, where it was under Israeli occupation, and Israel is taking advantage of the war that is going on in Syria to expand forward in the Golan Heights, and is helping these religious fanatics, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, in the area to push the Syrian forces back. So that is also going on. All right? So this is the map we have. All right? Turkey is losing a portion. Iran, here are partitioning. This is the Baluchistan area of Iran. Baluchistan is shared with Afghanistan. Baluchis are also split, thanks to the British, between Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. They're going to split those and turn it into free Baluchistan. So that part is gone. The oil fields for Iran are gone. So we're going to have a country of 80 million people without this oil resources, right? The northern part. And they're now agitating to create a movement in the north of Iran for independence of Azeri ethnic nationality in Iran. So probably there are going to be more attempts to split Iran even further. So if you look at these things, the way they're doing it, there's a common feature to all of these divisions. Most of these countries are smaller, right, areas, and landlocked. Okay? For their survival, they're going to need foreign assistance. And where does that come from? United States and others, right? So they're going to become puppets, left and right, of what is going on, of what the United States wants them to do. That's the plan. Okay. So Middle East is not just a question of what is happening in Iran, Assad, or Ayatollah, or other things. That is just an excuse for advancing this general plan for global domination in the 21st century. You're doing the same thing, if you look at it now, in Venezuela, and also beginning now in Nicaragua. The same is going on. That's again part and parcel of the same general plan. Any government that resists should be either crushed or the country be split into pieces that does not have the power to resist if they cannot change the governments. Okay. This is how the plan is at work. This is what's going on in Iran, in the whole Middle East. Okay. But there's another aspect to it, which is a kind of complement and supplement to this general plan. This was military strategic objective, right? There's an economic objective. And that is oil, definitely. But there's a misconception about oil. People generally, they generally correctly think that it is for oil, right? But it is not for oil, because the alternative they propose, okay, use electric cars or use LED bulbs or this and that so that we shrink our consumption, we don't need foreign oil. Right? But they don't know that the US is not after oil for internal consumption. Oil is the lifeline of the 21st century economy, right? And it's shrinking. Whoever controls the main oil fields of the world controls the economy of the world, controls its rivals. US is not importing oil from Middle East. It doesn't need Middle East oil. China does. Japan does. Europe does. These are rivals, potential rivals, right? So you can have a chokehold on them if you control their sources of oil. It is not for consumption, it is for controlling other countries' supply. You want to have US military sit on top of all of the oil fields and be the distributor of oil, who gets what? Right? And that is the purpose. And I want to show you a map. Of course, it needs adjustment because it's a little bit older one. I have to reduce it a little bit. I'll show you. These are years. I want you to take a look at it, and then we go there. Okay. These are predictions and current situations with regard to the oil. Okay, this is total world production of oil from, I think, 1960s to 2040. Okay, this is total production, just darker line. Okay. Here you have OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, which is mostly in Middle East and includes Venezuela and Libya and a few others, right? 12 members. This is OPEC production, number 2. And that goes up there. This is non-OPEC. The line number 3 is non-OPEC production, which is that line. The total of these two curves is this total production. Okay. Several things are happening. There's a prediction. By 2006, it was a prediction, it has already happened. The total production of oil in the world, which has been rising ever since 1960s, begins to fall. No new sources have been found. And the oil fields that are efficient at the beginning, when it gets to the bottom, it's hard to extract. You have to inject kind of gases or steam into the earth to bring them up and all that. Production slows down. It's much more costly. And we have peaked. We cannot produce more than what we had produced in 2006. Right? And from that point on, by 2040, this is where the curve is going to be. If you draw a line here, we're going to be at the 1/2 of total production. In 2040, 1/2 of 2006. Of course, new oil shale findings in the United States has changed the picture a little bit, but those are hugely expensive processes. This is not normal oil field. Okay, may reduce U.S. dependence, but still doesn't remove the need for controlling other people's oil, right? So it doesn't matter that much. But anyway, this is the peak oil. We have passed it. And from that point on, we have been going downhill in terms of oil production. And interestingly enough, all the oil fields outside the OPEC are dropping at a rapid rate, and mostly Middle East is becoming the main supplier of oil, whatever oil is left. If you look at 2040, you will see about 80-90% of the total oil production is going to be coming from Middle East. So what is going on here in terms of war has nothing to do with Assad or Ayatollah, but with nuclear weapons, right? It has everything to do with these conditions that create strategic requirements. If you want to dominate the world, you have to be able to control all the situations. So that is why the attack on Iran, Iraq, Libya, Venezuela makes sense. How it makes sense, right? Because these are the ones that have oil and are resisting. Others like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and all that are already in our hands, right? We don't need to do any of that. But we have to either crush them, partition them, or I did show you the map, take the part that has oil and turn it to some other state to be able to control. Now, the thing is, main problem. Okay, we could conserve, we could all do all that to bring our consumption of oil to 1/2 in the United States and the West. Another problem. China is industrializing, India is industrializing, Brazil is industrializing, and they're coming into the oil market with huge demands for oil, increasingly, right? And you see that tiny line? That's the world oil consumption. At the time that production is going down, consumption is going up. So the prediction is by 2040, oil production is going to be cut in half. Demand for oil is going to double. So we will have only 1/4 of what we need. Surprised that there are wars? Energy wars have already started. Whoever controls whatever is left controls the world. And you don't want China to be that one, right? That's how it's going.
But you said production is going down.
Yes.
So what are we becoming, bosses over nothing?
Yes, true. But whatever is left here, a lot of us will not get it. I mean, in the third world, probably, right? Of course, they come up with more efficient ways of using it. They may come up with alternative energy sources, but there's no way you can run a fighter jet on a solar panel, right? Or your tank. Maybe several years from now, maybe we will be able to do it. But the time lag between the time we can switch to a new source of energy and the current one dries out, that time lag is the critical point where all the destruction will come. And that's the beginning of that phase that we are in right now. Okay, so we should expect wars after war, for global domination. And that's the danger. And many people don't see it coming. But it is coming. And it's very dangerous. We may easily get into a terrible war over these things. And people have to realize that and do something, right? Now, the excuse. Assad, right, is a bad president. We know it's a cover. They know if they want to take out Iran, they have to take out Syria first. Because Syria was the only Arab country that during the invasion of Iran by Iraq at the instigation of the United States in 1980s, 70s, 80s, Syria was the only Arab country that stood by Iran and defended Iran against Iraq. And now is paying for it. Because all of the Arab governments and regimes are ganged up to get rid of them. Because it was Assad's father who did that. And when the invasion of Syria began as a part and parcel of this general plan, Iran and Syria had a mutual defense pact with each other. The same way NATO forces have it with each other, right? One attack, everybody comes to help, right? The same with Iran. Iran and Syria have that mutual defense pact, and besides, morally, Iran was indebted to Syria for its 8 years of support to drive Iraqi invasion up, right? So they owe it to Syria, morally, ethically, and also militarily, the pact, right? They have signed it and they are in mutual defense pact. Now, the ISIS and Al-Qaeda were really taking over Syria until some things happened. Iran came in and Russia came and turned the tide back, right? And they began to take over the areas that ISIS controlled. It wasn't the US. It wasn't the bombings. US was in fact not bombing any of the ISIS places. They, in the name of bombing ISIS, they were destroying Syrian infrastructure to weaken Assad. They said, oh, we found ISIS elements in this oil refinery, so we need to bomb it to get it out of their hand. So what do? Bombers go up there. As soon as the ISIS hears it, they leave the sites, right? And you can freely destroy an oil refinery that belongs to Syria, not ISIS. The roads, bridges, all of those in that name were destroyed. Right? That's part of the plan to destroy Syria in the name of bombing ISIS. That's how they did it. And that's what the Russians objected, that you're not doing it. Why is it after so many years of bombing ISIS is almost taking 80% of the country? And only when Russian bombing started, the ISIS was pushed back, because they knew how to hit them. And they meant to hit them. ISIS, in fact, was serving the plan for the United States to partition Syria, bring down the resistant government, right? And partition the country. And USA wanted to destroy it. The only time, if you remember, the first time ISIS attacked Iraq, for 3 weeks, Obama administration said, we're not going to get involved in another war in Iraq. ISIS made a mistake. He moved toward Mosul, the center of northern Iraqi oil fields that the US oil companies had already taken over, and endangered the interests of US oil corporations in northern Iraq. That is when the US began. And the plan was not destroy ISIS, contain it. That's how it was formulated. Keep it away from the oil fields. That was the main objective. But not keep it away from the Assad government that they were trying to destroy. And we know what kind of brutal savages they were. Right? And we were counting on them to do our dirty work for us. But anyway, there's few factors that Iran and Russia are getting involved. First of all, if you remember, Chechnya itself was also a target of terrorist extremism, religious Muslim extremism. So Russia has an interest in defeating that and not allowing it to grow in the region. That's definitely one. Second, the collapse of Syria would mean a government would be set up that would be a pro-US, and like the Eastern European countries, it would fall for setting up a NATO base right next door to Russia. Of course, Russia would not. The same way, if Russians came in and tried to take over Mexico and set up a base there, Russian base there, would we allow it? I don't think so, right? Remember the missile crisis with Cuba? We were ready to go to a nuclear war on that. just because the Soviets were coming that close, right? So we are doing the same thing to Russia right now, and of course they resist. Okay, you should understand that. Third reason, Iran is there also because it's the next target. And if it allows its ally to collapse, it knows that it's going to be next. That's paving the way for the next attack, right? So Iran is resisting it. At the same time, the entrance of Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah of Lebanon creating an alliance of resistance in the region against this plan that needs to be broken up. So there is a belt created, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, with the help of Russia resisting all these plans. And they need to break it up. And the core element of it is Syria. If they can bring down Syria, Hezbollah is isolated, can be taken care of by Israel. Iran is taken care of by the United States. So there is a reason that these forces are getting together, trying to resist together, and not allowing Syria to go down. Because if it happens, the rest is going to be guaranteed, right? So that's what's happening. So let me show you the current map of control. I need to make it smaller. I am not a PC person. Okay, it's good now. I don't know how accurate this part is. Okay, the red areas are under government control after this pushback of ISIS. If you look at the map for 3-4 years ago, this red area was very small. And the ISIS area, which is black now, whatever is left, is being actually fought by Syrians, Arab army. Okay, so this much is left of ISIS in Syria right now. This part of it, this is Golan Heights, we're under occupation of Israel. And these are rebel forces. These are rebel-controlled areas. And ISIS is at the center of it. Israel is defending it, providing hospitals for them, all those kind of things. So this is the area that Israel controls and is behind this rebel area here. So this area under control of Israel in Syria. That area. This is Turkish occupation forces. They are occupying Syrian territory.
Where's the Russian naval base?
Somewhere around here.
It's going to be near the water.
But anyway,
Or Mediterranean.
here is Turkish forces that have invaded Syria, and attached to them is another rebel area, right? So they are supporting the rebel forces here to take over this part of Syria. So Israel is taking this part. Turkey is taking this part. The interesting part is here. This is the border line with Iraq, right? You can see the cutoff. These are Kurdish areas, rebel areas, all of these, and they're linked to each other through the area controlled by the United States. In fact, the U.S. is carving out a portion here and keeping the Syrian forces to get closer to those areas that the U.S. wants to control. So if you look at it, this is the whole map of Syria. U.S. and France have established at least 10-12 military bases here in northern Syria. Israel is in control here. Turkey is in control here. And if it wasn't for a resistance by Iranian and Russians and Hezbollah, the country would have been already partitioned and the government would have gone. Any of the things I'm saying is not in support of Assad or any other government. Has nothing to do with that. And it's irrelevant even for those who are carrying out this plan. Okay? For example, I want to get to Iran's case. Iran never had a nuclear project, military nuclear project. UN has confirmed this, NPT has confirmed this, left and right all over the place. Iran has even admitted a more stringent inspection than the regularly required. Never had it. But the issue is not nuclear weapons with Iran. The issue is the fact that since the revolution of 1979, Iran has been resisting US domination. One thing please remember, Iran has refrained from developing nuclear weapons or even military nuclear technology. Because, first of all, Ayatollah Khamenei, supreme leader, has announced a decree. Khomeini did himself, that nuclear weapons are haram in Islam. Forbidden. They are against Islam. Ahmadinejad, interestingly, was in New York several years ago and had an interview with Charlie Rose. He asked him, why don't you make nuclear weapons? He referred to this fatwa by the Ayatollah, the decree, by the supreme leader, religious leader, that first of all, it is forbidden in Islam. Second, the age of winning wars with atomic weapons is gone. You cannot use them anymore. There's no victory in using them. Third, if nuclear weapons help anybody, Israel must have been able to crush the Palestinian movement for decades. They have been able to, because nuclear weapons are useless in those kind of conflicts, right? So there's nothing you can do with it. Why should we bother spending so much money and energy and all those things and bring the wrath of the world against us? And besides, he said that Israel has 200-something warheads, nuclear warheads. As soon as we make the first one, we're going to be hit by 200 warheads. It's a crazy decision. They're not going to let us survive. Iran never had that intention, never had the plan, never had the project, never moved in that direction. Besides, this is despite the fact that Iran is surrounded by nuclear weapon states and the United States with nuclear weapons. Turkey is a NATO state with nuclear weapons, US nuclear weapons stationed in the NATO bases here, right? US naval forces equipped with nuclear weapons are here in the Persian Gulf. Iraq has US bases here with the nuclear capable units. Israel has nuclear weapons. Russia on the north is a superpower with nuclear weapons. India on this side has nuclear weapons. Right? Iran is surrounded by nuclear weapons and still refuses to build any. Right? So the argument that Iran nuclear weapons are the reason for all of these things doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist. They haven't even shown evidence that Iran has it. But the accusation is that they do not let inspectors go into Iranian military bases, not nuclear facilities, but military bases to see if there is something there, right? And no government, no country will allow that, especially if you know that half of the inspectors of United Nations are American, which has declared you part of axis of evil and said Iran must be destroyed, right? Would you allow that to happen? The US is pushing everybody to refrain from making nuclear weapons. What? It itself refuses to allow inspectors of NPT to check US nuclear facilities, right? But demanding others to do that. So nuclear weapons is up. And the reason why, I'm going to close with this, because this is and we can discuss this. Trump pulled out of weapons deal with Iran, nuclear weapons deal. Nuclear deal in general. US is demanding that Iran stop enrichment, which is within its rights. UN Charter says every country has the right to develop nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. Right? US is saying, how do we know Iran will not know? It's a question of know-how. If they know it, how to do it, they can decide to go military way anytime they want to. First of all, the transfer is not uranium enrichment for peaceful purposes is enrichment of 3% or 20% depending on nuclear reactors for energy or medical use and all that. If you want to enrich for uranium for weapons, you have to go to enrichment of 93%. Not 20%, not 3%. But the US and Israel are saying Iran should not even have that 3%. Because someday it may use it for something else. That technology and know-how. Right? It's like saying somebody, you're not supposed to have a kind of a silverware for your dining room because you may use the knife someday to kill somebody with it. Right? That's illegal. What they are imposing on Iran is illegal. Iran is still went ahead with it. Right? But why are they pulling out? Because the issue is not nuclear. I just want to read you the list of things that US wants Iran to do in order to get out this bind. It's a 12-pointer, but I will read some of that. This is Pompeo's announcement after the withdrawal from the deal, right? Iran must end its proliferation of hostile missiles, okay, and halt further launching or development of nuclear-capable missile systems. This was not part of the deal. This is an additional thing U.S. is dealing with. There was no deal on missiles, right? It was a nuclear technology. So missiles were separate from this. U.S. could start demanding, say, okay, now we want to have a deal with your missiles, right? But not canceling this one because this one was not in violation. Iran was not in violation of the current deal with this. But that tells you what the story is. Missiles could be deterrent, right? That's the story. Iran must end support to Middle Eastern terrorist groups, including Lebanese Hezbollah, which is its ally. Hezbollah is in the Lebanese government, has members of parliament, in cabinet. It's just the US that has, and Israel that declared it terrorist group, right? Hamas, which is again controlling part of Palestine, elected to office, not necessarily supporting their policies, but they were elected government, right? And Palestinian Islamic Jihad, okay? Iran must respect the sovereignty of the Iraqi government and permit the disarming, demobilization, and reintegration of Shia militias. Not all Shias are going along with the US invasion and occupation. Some Shia groups are resisting inside, alongside the Sunnis. So they want Iran to stop helping them resist the invasion. Okay. Iran must also end its military support for the Houthi militia in Yemen and work toward peaceful political settlement in Yemen. Right? So Iran get out of Syria, Iran get out of Yemen, Iran get out of Iraq, right? These are political demands. They want to change Iran's foreign policy with the excuse of nuclear weapons, right? And since they have the power, military power, to do anything they want, they're doing it. Okay. They are making at the same time, the Europeans said they may possibly continue with the deal, but it's virtually impossible. Every economist knows that. The European economy is too integrated into the dollar market that there is no way Europeans can handle all of the transactions with Iran without being punished by the American banking system and the Treasury Department's punishment of those who deal with Iran. There's too much risk for the European companies to deal with Iran. And US is doing it harder, making it harder by increasing the sanctions and punishments for dealing with Iran. So Europeans have already withdrawn from a lot of things they said they would do. So the US is now pushing Iran into taking some crazy action. Either restart enriching, right? Or submitting completely. And pulling out of Syria, pulling out of Iraq, pulling out of it. And by increasing sanctions, they are promoting unrest inside the country too. So they think this prompt attack will ultimately bring Iran to its knees and probably get it ready for the final military blow to bring it back. That's what the story is. Okay, I try to give you overall picture. Okay, but there's a lot of details in all of these things. Sorry, I lost my notes. Otherwise, I would have given you some more details. Forgive me for being too long. The issue is too complicated. Happy to.
I understand that Libya was destroyed because she wanted to get off the gold market, off the dollar. Is this correct?
Yes, also Saddam Hussein was doing that, and also Iran was another aspect. Is Iran.
But even though Libya was the most democratic country in all part of that Africa, I mean, people had total freedoms, free education. From the oil, a certain percentage was given to all the peoples. They had free education, as go as far as they want. Homes, got married, you got a large sum of money. If you bought a house, you got heavily subsidized. Women had equal rights to men, and there were more women in the government than there were men.
That's true.
Thank you.
That's true. Of course, they banked on this, what they called Arab Spring. And this happened, they did it in Syria too. There are legitimate concerns and causes for people to protest and ask for reforms in all of the Middle Eastern countries, no question about it. But it's one thing when people rise up and want something. It's another thing when you instigate in the name of people. I give you one clue. They hijacked Libyan situation because there were some kind of legitimate demands for changes. But as soon as people came to the streets, they started shipping arms to radical forces, funded all those certain tribes that were opposed to the tribes of the ruling government, and agitated them against the main thing. So they hijacked people's movement and took it to a different direction. The same thing happened in Syria. People had legitimate demands. Even the government acknowledged that. They rewrote the constitution and all those things. But the Western powers began to shipping arms into the country, arming the radicals and the religious fanatics and all those people, and kind of unleashing them on the government. And when the Assad government made all the changes, they still not enough. Not enough. You have to go. But you have to go was not the position of people, it was the position of these ultimate radicals. One thing I usually as a criterion use, whether something is genuinely people's movement or it's being instigated, is when you ask yourself, where did the uprising start? Okay? In Egypt, it started in the center of the city, in the main circle of the capital city, right? That's where it started. In Tunisia, it started the same way. In Libya, it started in a small town near the border with Saudi Arabia. A rural area. Suddenly, there appeared opposition with arms, right? The same happened with Syria. It started at the border with Jordan and Turkey. Turkey was the main path to arming, shipping CIA packages of arms and all those things, you know. So Damascus has never had an uprising like this, right? Egypt had an uprising of the majority of people, great number of people in the center of the capital city, right? And they hijacked that and kicked them and brought back El-Sisi, right? And the military government. But this is a good criterion to check. Whenever there's an uprising, see where it's starting. If it's coming from a foreign force, it's coming from the border. If it's coming from the center of the capital city, you know there's something wrong.
Amika?
I have two questions. First is, what is the exact name of that document published in 1994 by neocons?
It's Rebuilding America's Defenses. It has a subtitle too.
And this is how I can get it on the internet.
Go to Google Project for the New American Century.
The New American Century, okay, good.
Project for the New American Century. All the documents are.
Okay, and the second question is, what's that Dublin conference that you're going to have November 16th? You know, how we can send some money off, if we can.
There's a flyer here, but there's a website, the coalition's website is nousnatobases.org. nousnatobases.org.
I see. This is in here on the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you.
If you go there, there's a description of the unity statement you can sign. There's a button for donations. Everything is there. And we are working on the program of the conference. We're going to announce the registration this week. Begin the registration for the conference. And also, it's an ongoing one. We're going to put out first the conference schedule and program. We are working on the list of speakers. Very many prominent speakers from around the world are going to be there, from Cuba, from Ireland, from Brazil, from Palestine, from Israel. A lot of forces are going to be there.
No, I just want to ask a question. Just maybe you can clarify something for me.
Sure.
Because you talked about the project for the New American Century and how it became American foreign policy under the Bush administration. And you talked about the Iran nuclear deal and then what the Trump administration has done. But you spoke as if there was a kind of unified American foreign policy. But there seems to be some profound conflict of tension or opposition within the American establishment and within the American establishment and the Europeans, because so there's many people in America who wanted that nuclear deal, and the Europeans still want the nuclear deal, and so I mean, could you clarify that?
Exactly. The George W.'s foreign policy was unilateralist. U.S. and whoever wants to go with us. They bypassed the United Nations. The coalition that invaded Iraq was not a UN-sanctioned coalition. Did not include, if you remember, the French even vetoed that in the Security Council, and there started the process of renaming French fries, freedom fries, and stuff like that, if you remember that.
The Germans were opposed. So the US went ahead with a list of, they called it Coalition of the Willing, bypassing the United Nations. Okay? Which was British, Britain, and some others, right? And some minor countries that you don't expect to be part of that, but yeah. So they bypassed, and that is in the document, we should bypass UN. UN is not going to do the work for us. We should go with NATO. That was in that document that you're asking, it's there. So UN is no good. We have to bypass it, do our own thing through NATO, and we should avoid creation of European defense forces also. We have to dominate militarily Europe. Those are policies set there. Okay, so George Bush was unilateralist in this, America alone with whoever comes with it, right? And it pissed off most of the European countries because they had no interest in attacking Iraq. They had no interest in it. They were military, economically tied. The Europeans had huge contracts with Iraq, all kinds of contracts. They didn't want it destroyed. And since they didn't come in to join, when the question of reconstruction was coming in, the Bush administration refused to share the contracts of reconstruction with Europeans. They punished them for not being part of it. And it alienated the whole camp. It created tensions in NATO and other places, right? Now, Obama followed the same policy, but dropped the unilateralist approach. Said we have to go through UN, we have to work with our allies, and even the attack should be with NATO in general, not US alone. Okay. So he dropped the unilateralist side. If you look at it, then came all kinds of cooperations, restriction of what US unilaterally would do. They took more kind of diplomatic path toward Iran because that's what the Europeans wanted. Not some circles in the United States, but generally they were part of US ruling elite that wanted a peaceful solution. There were warmongers also, right? And all of that, besides with that internationalism came economic globalization, which was dealing with China, sending money to China, coming back, all the investments going to China, international deals, NAFTA, CAFTA, all kinds of things came in as a part of this whole multilateralist approach, which devastated part of the US working class, which creates resistance also, right? So that multilateralist, which gave more say to Europeans, to Chinese, and kind of incorporated their interests into US policy too, to make it more feasible, was at the sacrifice of some of these US benefits or exclusive benefits that they had around the world. And it pissed off a lot of people inside the United States. So the backlash came on top of the racist backlash and all kinds of things that came. The economic backlash and the military backlash. Now Trump is going back to the unilateralist approach, killing all those multinational agreements. America First is in fact going back to George W. Bush period with a much more savage face, right? As a reaction to what was going on. So that you are absolutely correct. And the fight is going on within the U.S. ruling it.
What then do you make of what we can maybe expect or sort of underground see an alliance between Trump's relation with Putin and with Russia, which of course has a tremendous backlash in the United States, even among the Republicans, right? But he's going ahead with it. Now we'll have the summit. And he said so. There's some that's certainly not part of the old Bush strategy.
No. Trump, as he always claimed himself, he's a deal maker, right? He wanted to make a deal with Russia, and that was his plan, as opposed to confrontation. All right. The only positive thing is all of Trump campaign was that he wanted to make peace with Russia, right? And the whole establishment was bent on stopping it. And it still is. Even if you look at the Korea deal, North Korea, the whole media is going, has no substance, it doesn't work, there's nothing happening, all of this is useless. Negative to anything that he is trying to do. They have cornered him with this Russia campaign, right? He had to withdraw most of his plans for reaching out to the East. He had to withdraw, right? And they have contained him. And as long as they can contain him with this campaign, oh, you're colluding with Russia, you're doing this, you're doing that, he is sterilized, he is paralyzed.
You're not feeling sorry for him, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not. What I'm saying is that if there was only one positive thing there,
Name it.
making peace with Russia, not going into war with Russia.
Well, how about the fact that they may have helped him with the election? Maybe that's where the peace is.
Those are internal things that we have to discuss.
Well, they may be, in his mind, they may be significant.
It may be significant, but let me say this. We cannot be the country that could cry about meddling. Right? We have been meddling in the affairs of all of the countries of the world, including Russia. Who brought Yeltsin to power in Russia? Who brought Yeltsin to power in Russia?
I don't dispute that we have, but that doesn't change the fact that they have.
Well, I'm not condoning it.
Well,
but what I'm saying,
the reason why old Trumpy is very friendly with Putin.
Could be. But the point is, we are already meddling, right? In Syria, in Iraq, in Venezuela, in Nicaragua, in Cuba, everywhere, right? If it's a principled position against meddling, that's the same way nuclear weapons, anti-nuclear weapon people say no nuclear weapon for anybody. You could declare no meddling by anybody. But if you pick it only the one that is doing it against the U.S. and forget the rest of it, right?
We meddled with Mossadegh. We started first, and Allende, and many others, Gaddafi and everything else.
I'm not justifying.
Yeah, right.
The question is, you have to take a principled position.
It's a double standard.
Right? We cannot say we are victim here. We are not a victim.
Not at all.
We are ruling the world right now. What do you expect? For the enemy to use the same method you're using? That's expected. And we have to stop it. No question about it. Right? I'm not defending it. What I'm trying to say is that we are playing crying foul. Right. And this is not right. And it's not only Trump. It's not only Trump. You look at the whole thing. That has to be stopped. No question about it. No question about it. But that's a different level. Right? Who did, in the name of whatever, US and Israel, you did a cyber attack on Iranian nuclear facilities, didn't they? And now we're talking about cyber attacks. Who started? Yeah.
A term comes back to mind from the 1980s, I believe, total spectrum dominance.
Yes, okay. Fullest.
Now,
fullest spectrum. Full
yeah.
spectrum dominance.
Full spectrum dominance. Correct. Okay, anyway, it seems to me that was a technological notion. And it seems that that's kind of the, shall we say, the twin of the political operations that we have. But I hadn't heard that term in a long time, full spectrum dominance, but I found it very offensive at the time, and still do. But
you're absolutely right.
Just a comment.
Full spectrum means at all levels dominance.
You might say,
including cyber.
Yeah, I have a personally strong feeling that our two worst allies are Saudi Arabia, which is a horrible country, and Israel. I'll put it out there. And, you know, to me, that seems to be the whole problem in the Middle East. And I personally think we would do very well to reach out to Iran and dump those other countries. And it would be a much more positive move. Of course, it will never happen. But that's the way I see it. Maybe that's offensive to some people, I don't know. But,
Can I change the... I immigrated to America in 1957 because of the Suez Crisis.
Yeah.
Now, a question, there's something that I've never quite understood. Eisenhower had an agreement with Britain to attack Egypt, and then he pulled out, which caused a lot of economic problems in Britain, and that's why we immigrated, because the price of oil shot through the roof. Why did Eisenhower not attack Egypt? Do you know?
Well, I don't have the answer, but
No.
I have the general picture that probably one of the concerns was the question of Cold War and the threat, the danger that could create between East and West. I'm not sure.
It created terrible problems.
It did. But I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on that historical aspect.
With the oil things, because that's what
I
it's all
doubt it.
about.
I doubt
It's all
it.
about
I think it's more of a strategic concern than an oil concern.
Because the Brits didn't take kindly to Eisenhower after he made that decision.
I have a question.
Sure.
When I was a graduate student, I inadvertently was working on something which applies to weather warfare. And my work was classified, which to my surprise. And I've heard that an Iranian official accused the United States of weather warfare. I know it's possible.
It is possible.
Have you heard anything about that?
No, nothing. But I also have heard stories that they even started something like that in Vietnam too, the United States. In terms of creating flooding for the underground tunnels of the Viet Cong. I heard stories about that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They were receiving clouds for huge rain to stop that transport.
I have the last question. You know, after all is said and done, I'm going to ask you a question that I asked Trita Parsi.
Okay.
If we eventually do hit Iran, you know, not nuclear, just regular, how many jihadists we would create out of that country of 80 million people?
Yeah. Well, I don't think any. I don't think you can create jihadists. But Iranians, when Iraq invaded, with the help of the United States, Iranian youth in thousands walked over minefields to clear the path for Iranian forces, barehanded. Many of them died. The sense of nationalism in Iran is very strong, very strong. And it has a history too, because Iran had been at the crossroads of foreign invasion for a long time.
like
And
since
it was
Cyrus the
only
Great.
through Mongols, Genghis Khan, Attila, you know, the British, the French, you know, United States, one by one. And Iranians have been able to survive by relying on that sense of national pride that they have. If there's a resistance, it's not going to be in the name of religion. Not at all. Not at all. But there will be resistance.
Well, you look back at Cyrus the Great. At that time, You know, Persia was really an immensely powerful nation at that time, and I think they have some of that same kind of ancient pride that the Chinese have in their ancient history. It's not forgotten.
Arab invasions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the time and bearing with me. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.